Hey, David.
I think this is my pen from last time, but I think it's almost out of ink, so.
Hello. Happy Wednesday. Great to see you all.
You fibbing?
It would not
No,
that
at
big.
least, I mean, it could be
It could be worse. This is only my fourth meeting. I just, and I feel like it has not been my fourth meeting.
It's a good initiation.
It's a good one.
Are we set?
We are.
We are set. This meeting of the Rhode Island Board of Elections will come to order.
I need Patty.
Oh, we need Patty, don't we? Oh, great, we made it. Sorry, Patty. We almost started without you. How could that be? You set? We will come to order. It is 1:04 PM. Would you please read the roll, Madam Secretary?
Chairwoman Maderas,
Here.
Vice Chairman Pierce, Member Bettenker,
Here.
Member DeSimone,
Present.
Member Johnson, Member Scholes, Member West,
Present.
Executive Director Robert Raposa,
Present.
Legal Counsel Capaccio.
Present.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. First item on today's agenda, the staff will present a directive for the board to discuss and vote to establish the use of polling place receptacles for the deposit of mail ballots at polling places on election day. Mr. Raposa, will you report, please?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. The directive that is before you is a directive to allow receptacles in the polling places on primary day, September 8th, September 13th, and election day, November 8th. This directive is to authorize the staff to provide mail ballot receptacles to the polling places on the dates I just mentioned. The Board of Elections and all Board of Canvassers shall provide public notice of the availability of these receptacles on their websites prior to the primary and again prior to the general election. What I am providing to you now is a summary of what the directive in front of you contains. The receptacle is to be available to the voters from the time the polling place opens until 8 p.m. on election and primary day. If a voter is standing in line at 8 p.m., the voter will be permitted to use the receptacle. The receptacle is to be used exclusively for the receipt of any mail ballot enclosed within a sealed certification envelope. The receptacles will be labeled as an official polling place receptacle with a warning message that the receptacle is only to be used to deposit mail and emergency ballot contained again within the sealed certification envelope. The receptacles shall be monitored by a designated polling place official. This designated person will be assigned by the local Board of Canvassers. Each receptacle will be located no more than 15 feet from the supervisor's tables within the polling place. The receptacle must be accessible to all voters, including those that may have a disability. At 8 p.m., or when the last voter standing in line with a mail ballot enters their sealed mail ballot into the receptacle, the designated polling place official shall seal the receptacle, and that individual or the Board of Canvassers shall deliver the receptacle to the elections office at the city or town hall, where it will be locked in a secured location. By 12 p.m., the day following the primary or the election, the receptacles that have been stored at the city and town shall be delivered to the Board of Elections. Upon receipt by the Board of Elections staff, each receptacle shall be opened and and we will document the number of oath envelopes or certification envelopes that is contained inside each receptacle. And then the board staff will proceed to process, certify, and tabulate the ballot contained in the sealed oath envelope. This directive shall remain in force in effect by this board, provided that if less than 5% of all outstanding mail ballots for the November 8th, 2022 general election are cast from mail ballots deposited in one of the official polling place receptacles we had in use on November 8th. This directive shall be withdrawn by the board after that date, if you so desire. I would like to bring to your attention that we received 18 correspondences. 10 of the correspondences were in favor of using the receptacles on primary and election day. 7 of them did not believe that we should be providing these to the polling place. We also are opening 395 precincts for the primary in September and 414 precincts for the election in November. Because some of these polling places have multiple polls, but in a multiple poll, we would like to provide one receptacle to the one space that will be used in a building, in the same room. That is the conclusion of my explanation of the directive that is before you, that we as the staff hope that you do pass and we use these for 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Reposa. Do any of the board members have any questions of Bob or any concerns they'd like to raise at this time?
I mean, I have some questions, but I'm
Well, let's hear them.
willing to wait, but,
That's fine.
okay. Well, first of all, Bob, has the staff had any contact with the local boards to determine whether or not they can meet this as of September 13th? That would be my
We
first
sent
concern.
out emails to them, and we sent them correspondence, we sent them a copy of the proposed draft directive.
Okay.
39 boards of canvassers received this, we heard back from 7.
And I'm assuming those 7 said that they didn't want it.
That is correct.
Excuse me, the boxes are already in existence, I understand. Though.
That is correct. We
Okay.
used these in 2020.
Okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I guess my other concern is just a couple of practical concerns. We're talking about supervision by a designated polling place official. So will that official only be responsible for this box?
If you require that, that would mean that they would have to hire an additional poll worker in all of these locations.
Because the concern I have, I guess, is we have these boxes outside city halls now. We have, it's a different box, first of all, correct, than what
That
our
is
normal
correct.
ballot box is. So this isn't a box that's as secure as what we have outside. When we have them outside, we require monitoring 24 hours. So I don't have a problem with either video or a designated official having to monitor this box, because I think it's a serious enough item that the official should be looking at this box at all time. My real concern is that someone other than a mail ballot user will put their ballot in this box. And if they do, their vote is negated. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay.
And this directive states that.
And that would be my concern, particularly if it's a busy time of the day and someone doesn't want to wait in line or something of that nature. So I would be much more comfortable if there were a designated person or persons during the day that monitors this box while the polling place is open. And then secondly, we talk in the regulation about a protected location. So I'm a little averse to just saying a protected location. I think we need to define that a little better than just simply a protected location. Do we just mean inside the door? Do we mean, within so many feet of an election worker? What are we talking about there?
Well, this directive says 15 feet away
Away from a door.
from the supervisors where they are sitting.
But we haven't defined what a protected location is. And then the last thing on page 2 is with regard to the accessibility. I think we should have some type of language that it's going to meet the ADA standards for disability. So I think we need to spell that out in the regulation rather than just say it has to be accessible. Some of the cities or towns may not have someone in canvases that's familiar with the ADA requirements. This has to go over to their legal counsel. They may take some time with that. So I think if we specify out the regulation or the ADA requirement that it has to meet that requirement, at least they've got something they can reference. And then on the delivery, I'm not sure why we can't get these election nights instead of getting them the following day.
At the end of the election day, many of these locations are receiving returns from the polling place, from the poll workers. When some of these, our polls close at 8 o'clock, sometimes some of these returns are not received by the local board of canvassers up to 10 o'clock at night because of the time it takes to close down the poll. The reason that we said 12 o'clock the next day, that mirrors what we did in 2020. And it does allow the local board of canvassers to be able to bring these receptacles to us here or arrange for transportation.
Well, those are some concerns I have. I know the local boards have a terrible time transporting to us. I think that if we are making this regulation, we need to provide someone there. I would suggest we have someone there to pick up this box and bring it here at the end of the night. I don't think the local boards should be involved in this. I don't think they should have to be involved in this. This is something additional that we want to impose on the local boards, and we're doing it without giving them any additional staffing. We're doing it without giving them any official parties. We're just saying to them, here's a box, make sure the mail ballots go in it. And I don't think the directive is specific enough, frankly, the way it is. And so I, for one, have a problem with this as it sits, but I'm one person on the board, so.
Thank you, Lou. Can I ask a question? Were there any issues at the last election where this box were at location of the box or return of the, have we had any issues relative to these
We
drop
did not.
boxes?
We
Nothing?
did not.
You heard nothing back?
We had no feedback from any of the boards of canvassers. In some instances, there were quite a few boxes that they had to bring back. But we helped out Providence because they have 80 polling places.
Mhm.
We sent our moving company to Providence to pick up their boxes the next morning and had them back here by 12 o'clock. If we were to provide that service to the remaining 38 communities, we have 3 vehicles that we can put 2 people in a vehicle, because I would not want one person in a vehicle at a time with the material they're handling. We would be crisscrossing the entire state to pick up these boxes to get them back here by 12 o'clock. Because the urgency is the sooner we get these boxes here, we open them, we record the number of ballots. And then at that point, we have to process the mail ballots because they are all valid ballots. We have to process them, certify them, open them, and then tabulate them. So that we try to get these completed as soon as possible after we receive them.
Mr. Pierce, you had a question?
Yes, you mentioned that there were seven boards of canvassers who were opposed to this. Did they cite reasons for their opposition?
Their reasoning was that the day after the election, that they are extremely busy trying to close out either the primary or the election. And to bring these to us is a hardship. And that was the common theme with the 7 of them.
None of them was concerned with the security of the boxes at the polling place?
They were not. There was no security of that point. It was basically bringing the boxes back to us.
I think just one. My recollection is that one of the local communities did express concern about being able to always observe it during the entire time that it was in operation.
But we can address that if the board wants to have the 39 boards of canvassers hire an additional poll worker that is designated to stand by or that box throughout the day.
And through the chair, would that
Mr.
come
West?
from our budget?
That would not.
So it would not, it would come from their budget?
That's, yes, we do not pay poll workers.
Okay, so another question I have. The local board of canvassers have to come up here the day after the elections anyway, is that correct?
That is correct. They are required to be here the next day by 12 PM already because we had set a procedure in place during 2020 to ensure that we have not had any cybersecurity attacks where the 39 boards of canvassers have to come up with the USB drive that they have in their possession. And we refeed them into our network to make sure the results we get while we have the USB drive matches that was transmitted through wirelessly to us from the polling place.
So they have to come here anyway.
They do.
So I don't see where there's a problem, them not bringing that other box along with the drive
Mhm.
too.
But that's why it was worded in this draft that was presented to you. It was presented in that manner.
Thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Johnson.
Madam Chair, with respect to Commissioner DeSimone's concerns about the monitoring in the protected location, is there a cost-effective way to actually connect like video to, I mean, we already have poll pads connected to different things. Is there a way, rather than have a designated person, that it could be, say, at the supervisor's table? I'm open to another person. And then I would agree on the maybe defining a little bit more the protected location and spelling out the language for ADA standards. So just wondering if we can drill down on that a little bit. And that said, I'm in strong support of providing this to the voters on
We
election
can-
day.
We can definitely, at your direction, look into what you have raised and bring this draft back to you at a subsequent meeting.
The only other thing, just to go off what the commissioner said that comes to mind is signage. And I think we're gonna need to help the local boards with the type of signage that we're gonna need on this. I think that it needs to be something that's very clear to the voter. Don't put your ballot in here unless it's a mail ballot and it's in an envelope. And I understand it worked in 2020, but you had, from my recollection, you had 0.06% of voters use these in 2020. And that was in the middle of COVID. So I would suggest that more people will be going in person this time. So the confusion rate could be a little higher. That's my real concern. At COVID, no one was going out. People were all voting by mail or voting early. They were not, and I think the numbers show, they were not depositing these things in the polling place.
That is very true.
I mean, they were not.
Well, and I think that this is a really good way to see how many people are going to be using those boxes.
Yeah.
And, if there's no interest in using the boxes or very limited interest, then
Yeah,
we can
I don't
rethink.
want to put a burden on the local
Understood.
people.
I-
I'm trying to ease that burden as much as we can. Because I remember sitting on that side
I get
and
it.
getting directives from this board and saying, and I happen to be the chairman of the local board, and saying, oh, sure, they want to put on these directives, but they don't give us any means to meet the directives. So that's the concern I have from this standpoint.
I
And
understand.
we're only a month before the primary,
As a former canvassing clerk, I understand what you're saying.
so.
So, yes, thank you.
Can
Yes, Ms. Bettinger.
I agree. If we can look into cameras, I think all the concerns are important. One of the issues specifically about delivery. So because that's I think what some of the people mentioned, and it's good to learn that they have to come here at noon anyway. But you mentioned that we have 2 delivery trucks. I think one of the testimonies that we received from one of the Board of Canvassers was regarding can we like, can
Well,
we
they-
do some type of regional thing, right? And so we live in the smallest state in the country, but driving 20 minutes as a person who's lived in Rhode Island since she was 12 is still a long time. However, I'm wondering if there is a place, can we do that? Can we collect in with 2 of our trucks regionally for some of these people? Especially you mentioned Providence, right? But I'm sure that there's other cities.
It's not the transport here, because they're transporting the drive anyway. But those drives come into the board at the close of the election polls. Those individual drives come into the board, correct? They come into the local boards at night.
They bring the returns back to the local board
I-
as soon as the polls are closed.
So
and
by
they pay.
8:30, the local board has those drives.
Well, not.
Well, but-
In the ideal world, yes.
Okay, so at least by 10 o'clock, they
By
have those
10
drives.
o'clock, they have.
So they have all the drives at 10 o'clock on Tuesday night. They bring them here Wednesday morning by noon.
Mhm.
The problem with these boxes is, my guess will be that many of the polling places won't bring the boxes back until they go pick them up in the morning. They'll pick up those boxes in the morning.
I don't believe that was what happened in 2020. I do believe they were brought back by the poll workers with their supplies to city or town hall.
But I
And
mean,
this directive says that they are brought back and that they are secured within their location.
and that's why I think we need a designated person. And even if it's not an additional person, at least designate one of the poll workers to do that. That's my only concern.
Which if that is your directive, we can include that in this and direct the local boards that they would have to hire an additional person.
Or have someone
Well-
that's already there
Yeah.
designated.
Yeah.
to-
Well, all of the people in our polling places today have a job. They're all busy. They're either checking the voters in, they're either the clerk monitoring the ballots, they're the moderator that's in charge of the voting equipment and also disaffiliation and making sure everything goes accordingly
Mhm.
because they are in charge. The moderator is in charge of our polls during the day.
And the good news is with signage, I agree, really explicit signage, but they have to go through a table and a supervisor before getting to said receptacle, right?
I
So no
mean-
one's just throwing it in.
Even if it's something as simple as the box is located at the sign-in table. That way there's somebody sitting next to it. And we don't have to be concerned with, a ballot getting in there, because somebody sitting next to it is going to say, hey, don't put that in there.
When we drafted that was part of our plan because it says within 15 feet of where they're sitting.
Okay.
I
So
mean,
maybe,
this directive states that.
so would it be an issue to make it closer?
We can change it closer. If you want it to be 10 feet, 5 feet, we can definitely put that as
I mean,
part of this
I'd feel a little
directive.
better, and like I
We
said,
we can add that. Absolutely. This is your directive. This is just a draft that the staff prepared out of the meeting we had last week where you asked me to come back with a directive for receptacles.
Okay.
And if I could just be heard on that last point from Mr. DeSimone, which is a legitimate concern. One countering concern I had when Bob and I were talking about the number of feet is if you have this receptacle so close to where the table is, where you sign in, I'm not sure that people who are coming in for the purpose of dropping off the mail ballot will even know it's there because they may end up waiting in line to sign up to register if it's 15 feet, more than 15 feet out, or I should say less than 15 feet, because they may not see it. That's one discussion we had on that point. And of course, your concern about making sure it's close enough so there's always a set of eyes on it. I totally understand that.
I don't know if there's a way that we can put it close enough so that somebody can be looking at it without having to actually hire somebody to. look
Yeah,
at it.
you could actually have it right near the table and then just have some kind of an arrow that says for mail ballot drop off, a big red arrow that points you this way and it's just a matter of how much
Mhm.
paraphernalia you want to impose at this late stage on the election process. If we had more time, that would be easy to do, but that's one issue, which
Yeah.
is just making sure people know it's there without waiting in line for 20 minutes just to do that.
We
And-
Yeah.
can definitely,
To-
Yeah.
we are no strangers to sending a lot of information and signage to the poll. So we
Yeah.
can definitely
Okay.
add signage if you feel that could eliminate the local boards from hiring an additional.
Well, and
poll
anyone who's
worker.
coming in with a ballot, you're going to know that they have a ballot because you'll be able to see that.
Yeah.
So,
And to Ray's point, I think it's also what's more affordable. Is it going to be more affordable to have a really big arrow that says in several languages that are
Right.
required by the polling place? Put your mail ballot here. I think is that cheaper, or is it to getting a human? Right. I
Yeah.
think it's.
The
I think at some
sign-
point
the
we.
signage is.
The sign is much cheaper.
And so
Yeah.
I think that's great.
More
I
effective, too.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and
it's more
that's the-
effective.
And actually, the commissioner raises a good point. If we can have the directive in the polling place be in whatever languages the ballot's
absolutely.
available in, it should be in.
Oh yeah,
would-
that's
we
a
would-
requirement.
We
Yes.
would do that.
Okay.
Yes, perfect.
And
Great.
to the chair.
yes,
also,
Mr. West.
When the local boards on their websites
Mm-hmm.
also put that information prior to
Very
the
good point.
elections, but when they send their information out to the public,
I think it
that
says that
be included
already.
on their website.
Very good point.
Which
Yeah, maybe
they're,
we could even
that
have-
is part of this.
Maybe
You
we
did,
even have something on our website.
It's going to be on ours as well.
Right.
I mean, that's part of this directive.
Okay, so after,
Okay.
yes,
To
Mr.
answer one
Schultz, go ahead.
question. Okay, first of all, in the last election, obviously, we had no concerns regarding use of the receptacles. And we've had comments from various groups who really represent the developing disabled and senior groups who make use of mail ballots. These are groups that really use the mail ballots, and they want the use of the receptacles in the polling places. So I think it's important that we have those. Now, with respect to the use of the monitoring or supervision of that, I think perhaps the staff could look at developing some sort of mechanism, a locking mechanism on the box. So if someone wanted to deposit the mail ballot, they can just unlock the supervisor can unlock the box.
That's a good point.
Someone can put in the mail ballot and lock it up. So therefore, we don't need to,
I mean, that-
have someone monitor that box at all times. There would be some sort of locking mechanism. The last point of discussion is that in the very last sentence, it says that the directive shall be withdrawn by the board. And I think that rather than put us in a position where we must withdraw it, that we change the language to may be withdrawn. So that in 2 years, if we see it really works, we can decide at that time whether or not it should be withdrawn or continued.
So that would be on the last paragraph,
Yeah,
Mr.
the last-
Schultz?
On the
Second
last
second to the
page.
last sentence.
Yeah, last sentence.
I I also
Shall to
believe
may.
if, going with Commissioner Scholl's comment to May on the last page, on page 3, that there's a paragraph that says this directive shall remain in full force. Would you want to change that to this directive may remain in full force?
Yes.
So you're going to change may in 2
Both
spots.
shalls to may.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Directive.
Yes, if I may, I think it's important to remember that the purpose of these boxes is to serve the convenience of the voter. So security is important, but controls and placement of the box are important, but we have to remember that that should not defeat the purpose of having the boxes available to help mail ballot voters.
Absolutely.
Right. I think that's what we're trying to weigh out here.
Yeah.
So is there a way to put some kind of a lock on the boxes we already have?
The boxes that we have already have a lock, but they would have to be unlocked every time if you're going to allow a voter to place the ballot in by the moderator. Our boxes were actually boxes that we modified in 2020. They were boxes, they were tote boxes where the ballots, when they were entered into our voting machines, the DS200, the state purchased the tote boxes. So when the ballot went into the DS200, it fell into a tote box At the end of the night, you could just pull the box up, close the flaps, lock it, and deliver it back to city or town hall. We found that they did not work well. So we have these boxes that in 2020, we modified with a slot. So they all have a slot where the voter can just place their ballot into a slot similar to our drop boxes that are in the communities, the Board of Elections and the Secretary of State today. And then when the the polls close at 8 p.m., the slot is secured so that no other ballots can be entered.
So if there's a period of time when someone can't visually monitor it, they could lock it.
It is locked all the time anyway.
Very
It
good.
is locked. The polling place does not have the key to unlock it. It is locked when it leaves the Board of
Let's
Elections,
see.
and it stays locked until it comes back to this building.
The slot is open. So they can just put their ballot in and that's it.
That is the purpose of the box.
Can I ask one last clarifying
Sure.
question? So you mentioned in 2020, we helped Providence and other larger, is that still the plan this year? Or what is the plan for?
Our plan, to be realistic, 80 boxes coming back from Providence. We actually would use our Hogan Movers, who we have a contract with. They will go to Providence.
Okay.
They will pick up their boxes and bring them back here to the Board of
Thank you.
Elections.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, are we able to make a vote at this time on this directive?
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to accept this directive with the changes. I think it is in the last paragraph. I'm not sure if any
The
language for ADA standards and signage and in terms of,
the inclusion of the ADA standards and signage to indicate where the drop box is located.
correct.
Reduction in feet.
From 15 to 10? Was that what we discussed? 15 to 10 feet?
I mean, that would be something that I would support.
Yeah.
So,
I thought that's what you said, Mr.
the
DeSimone.
10 feet, yep,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I'll second the motion as it's. as
With
it
those
sits there, 'cause that-
modifications?
I mean, that addresses my concerns, so I would second that motion.
As well as a reference to may instead of shall.
Correct.
Yes, I think Mrs. Johnson said that first. The
Okay,
two,
okay.
the two shalls will be may in that last paragraph, correct? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so
Now-
we have a motion and a second. Yes, Mr.
Well,
Reposo?
just to bring to your attention, today is August 24th. This equipment will be going out. The primary is September 13th. Do you want the staff to make the necessary changes and come back before you at a
We don't-
future meeting?
I think, I mean, again, I don't know if the movement is, but I'm certainly okay as a second with
Okay.
having the staff do
I
it.
think we made clear what we'd like in that
I
directive.
don't think you need
And
to
we have
like
it on
check it with
tape.
us. I think we
We
trust
have
you,
it.
Bob.
We have
At
it.
least I
Oh,
do
not to
from that
worry.
standpoint.
We have it.
So I'm confident that you will have the proper
Yes, we
verbiage
will.
I'm
in the
fine with
directive with the
that.
changes.
Just Commissioner Scholl's, though, that needs to be changed in accordance with what he's.
I already have a copy
Okay.
that might say may.
Okay.
There you go. So we do have a motion and a second to approve the directive as we've amended it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous vote. Item number 2, the board may hear and vote upon an appeal filed on behalf of Edward T. Cardillo Jr. from a decision rendered by the Town of Johnston Board of Canvassers on August 9th, 2022, denying a challenge to the residency and voter registration of Dennis D. Cardillo Jr. Mr. Marcaccio?
Thank you, Madam Chair. All parties and council can approach and have a seat.
Hello,
Madam Chair,
good afternoon.
members of the board. It's the first time I've been before this board, other than on Burnt County. This is far cry from what I've experienced.
It's a little nicer.
We'll take that as a positive.
It's a little nicer.
And can the attorneys introduce themselves for
Yes,
the record?
please.
I'm John J. Bevilacqua, I represent represent Edward Cardillo.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Liam Conley. I am the town solicitor of the town of Johnston, and I serve as legal counsel to the local board of canvassers.
Okay,
Madam Chair, perhaps I could just frame the issue for the board first.
that would be great.
You need more chairs for people?
More chairs?
Yes, of course.
You can just grab one right off the front there.
Present before the board is an appeal that was filed on behalf of Edward Cardillo, which relates to his challenge to the voter registration of Dennis Cardillo, I think Dennis Cardillo Jr. The challenge was made pursuant to section or chapter 9.1, section 28 of Title 17. The matter apparently was heard on or presented to the local board of canvassers on August 18. The moving party, represented by Mr. Bevilacqua, did file appellate papers along with his, or at the time that he notified this board of his appeal of that decision. Shortly, a short time ago, about an hour or so ago, around 12:05, the board received for the first time the papers from the town of Johnston, and those have been copied and presented before you. Those papers include a set of draft minutes, and I'll reference those. So this is from Lori Arusso to Robert Raposa. And in it are draft minutes from the August 18 hearing. There are other documents that were provided by the town as well, including minutes from a previous meeting on August 4, as well as other exhibits that were marked at the time of the August 18 meeting, and probably just at that meeting. The minutes that were presented do not set forth the basis for the denial of the challenge to the voter registration. At least from my view of it, it appears to be a motion, which then was carried, indicating that the challenge was denied without any reason. So that, I submit to the board, would be the focal point, at least initially, to the local board to see what the basis was and the possibility of remanding it so that the local board can articulate the reason for its decision. Otherwise, based on this record, it very well may be that this board will have to hear this de novo because there is no record other than just a straight denial. We don't know the basis of it. We don't know what evidence was considered. Now, I did have a conference call with both attorneys on Monday. So I know that they're both here and can present and explain their positions respectively. But I mean, at least I discussed that as a possibility if we didn't have a record transmitted. The record is transmitted, it's just whether or not it's sufficient.
Do you have any questions of our attorney?
And so, Madam Chair, may be appropriate at this time to hear both from the moving party as well as the attorney for the town.
So we should first hear from Mr. Bevilacqua.
I believe so, yes.
I'll try to be as brief as I can.
Thank you.
Is this on?
It should be green.
It should be, it's
Yeah,
green.
it's
the
green
green light's
now.
on.
Okay.
I'll try to be as direct as I possibly can. Just to give you an idea of what happened at both meetings, I have to admit that the solicitor explained the law as this legislature in the state of Rhode Island has promulgated and the rules and regulations that this board have promulgated in the process of challenging an individual who's running for office, indicating that he is not an elected voter from that district. He was very clear and succinct. On the first meeting, there was just a motion filed and a vote denying it. We filed a supplemental as directed. We used the form from the Board of Elections as directed. And the meeting lasted about maybe 30 seconds after Mr. Attorney Conley, the solicitor of the town of Johnston, explained the standard and the burden of proof. The burden of proof, he made it pretty clear. This is reasonable suspicion. And reasonable suspicion is almost anything. It's the lowest standard that you could ever find. In fact, many prosecutors would like reasonable suspicion to issue subpoenas or, search warrants instead of probable cause. But the fact of the matter is, after he explained it, and I had made a request to further explain reasonable cause suspicion, he in fact did that. There was a motion to deny and a second, and it was put to a vote. It didn't last 10 seconds after his explanation. My understanding, and I've been through a lot of hearings, not only before the Board of Elections, but in every court in this state and elsewhere. One of the board members in the first hearing says, gee, I have a lot of questions. Well, that's a reasonable suspicion. But they voted against it. Fine. We filed a supplemental. It was even worse. There was only 2 members of the board. One moved, the other second, and the deed was done. In the minds of anyone who had witnessed that, it was a foregone conclusion before it even started, because not only did they not have the information in advance to review it, they got it at the meeting that day, and nobody looked at it. Not from my observation. I sat right across both members. Nobody looked at it. A motion was made by the same person who made the motion to deny it initially on August 4th, and it was voted unanimously to deny it. That's why we had an appeal to this board, because there was no rhyme or reason that they gave us as to why they denied it. They didn't give any explanation as to what they found in the affidavit that was filed and the investigative report that was filed and attached to that affidavit. They admitted it as evidence, but never reviewed it. That's like going to trial and jury decides without hearing any testimony, without having a question asked or answered, without a ruling from a judge. Talk about a denial of due process. This is an example of it, and that's why we appealed it here.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Attorney Bevilacqua? Mr. Conley?
Yes,
We'd like
thank
to
you,
hear from
Madam
you.
Chair, members of the board. Preliminarily, I just want to let the board know that when I became aware of the appeal, I did request that the record be forwarded to the board. I apologize that you received it in such short notice. I do understand that one of the clerks was absent and resulted in delay in getting it compiled and to you, but I do apologize to you for that. In fact, I haven't even seen what has been transmitted to you, but I did have a conversation with the clerk, advising the clerk to make sure that you received the minutes, which are in draft form because they haven't been approved yet, and the exhibits that were submitted to the board. And as Mr. Mercatio has identified that information to you, that is what I understand to be the record. I would just follow up on what Mr. Bevilacqua has said by saying that I don't know that the board members did not receive the affidavit and the supplements prior to. I know that I did. I know that I reviewed them before I went to the meeting, and in all candor, but without asking, because I had received it in advance, I assumed that they had, but I can't speak for them. I don't know.
Okay.
And I would have to ask the clerk if they had been forwarded. I know that I did, but that's all that I can really tell you. I agree that, and as the minutes probably confirmed to you, that at the hearing began by me doing the best I can to explain to the members of the board what the rules and regulations are that apply to the process. Mr. Bevilacqua is correct that at his request, I gave a further explanation for the standard of reasonable suspicion, and without remembering what I said verbatim, it's pretty close to what Mr. Bevilacqua described as my explanation, that on a continuum of proof, it's probably the most minimal standard that that applies. And I advise them that they should carefully review the attachments to the affidavit. There were 2 separate packages that were incorporated into the affidavit. And I advised them that they were the finders of fact to determine whether or not, based on that information incorporated to the affidavit, that information met the standard of reasonable suspicion identified in the statute. And that there was not a discussion at the table by the board, by the 2 board members who were present to constitute the quorum about any of the information contained in the affidavits among themselves. But a motion was made to deny the request, seconded and passed unanimously of 2 constituting the quorum for the board that day. So I realize I probably just repeated a lot of the information that Mr. Bevilacqua covered with you and that you see in the record before you, but by way of affirmation, I think that is a complete description of events that day.
And you were at both meetings of the board.
I attended both meetings.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I have a couple of questions for
Yes.
Ray. Ray, in looking at the draft minutes as submitted and the references that both council made, it looks like that second meeting, or we'll call it the August 18th meeting, it commenced at 2:01. There was a motion made to close the meeting at 2:12. And they did in fact accept the affidavit as part of the record and as an exhibit. I just don't see, I mean, look, from a practical standpoint, I don't see how anyone at that meeting could have reviewed any of the documents that were provided in 11 minutes. Given the fact that, council had to explain to them the standard. So, I mean, it seems to me that there was no rational basis for the board's action. So, I mean, do you have any suggestions for us in that regard?
This has happened occasionally before, and my advice is always been to remand the matter to the local board so that they can make that decision and make a record so that it can be reviewed by this board on appeal. So I don't know what the basis was, and the board itself, the local board may have in its mind a legal reason why it did not want to even hear it at that time. Whatever the reason is, it should be specified on the record so we know what it is, and we can then either affirm, deny, or once again, remand.
I mean, because otherwise we have to consider all issues because.
Otherwise
we have
you-
no means.
There's no right, there's nothing, there's no basis for the decision, so you would have to sit de novo and hear it yourselves.
But that's not the proper way that it should be. It should be that they should render a decision is appealed to us.
This happened, that's right, Mr. West. You might remember, for some of the members who've been on for a period of time, back in or about the spring of 2016, we had a matter from the town of Tiverton regarding the possibility that the voter was living at what was a commercial residence. And my recollection is that this board remanded the matter at least once, possibly twice, but at least once, to develop a full record of the evidence as to the basis for a decision.
I remember that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would just like to present some pertinent information.
And you are, sir?
My name is Dennis Cardillo Jr. I'm the one running for office, but the photographs you have are of Dennis D. Cardillo's vehicle, a 2012
If I
Chrysler
may-
Do we, all
300.
right, so,
We're
so the
getting
problem,
ahead of ourselves.
right, the problem is that we don't, at this point, Mr. Cardillo, and I know that you've submitted an email. I believe I
Yes.
forwarded just so that all parties are aware of it. Before we hear or consider evidence, the question before this board is whether or not the proper forum for that is the local board. Even some of the statutes, when they speak about challenges, and boards having the ability to initiate their own review. One statute I have in mind refers both to the local board and the Secretary of State, which I think is, again, a signal from the General Assembly that when dealing with matters of the voters, their eligibility, their registration, it is better heard at the local level where the evidence and the information is derived from. So that's why we're stopping you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I
Mr.
would
Vice Chair.
move that this matter be remanded to the local board in Johnston for a full hearing with minutes that indicate the nature of the testimony that was presented and the reason for the determination that was made by that board.
Do we have a second to Mr. Pierce's motion?
Yeah, I mean, I would second it. I think Commissioner West was performing, so we should second it. But
Seconded by Mr. West.
could
With
we
your
just,
comment.
could we just include that the challenger be permitted at that hearing to offer whatever evidence they want to offer? I mean, to have a 10-minute meeting on a packet of information that would take you half an hour to look at is just seems to
Well, I
me.
think Mr. Pierce's full hearing
Yeah.
says the intent
Okay.
is to do exactly that.
I mean, I think we need to give them their due process. That's my real concern.
I agree.
So we have a motion and a second to remand this back to the Board of Canvassers in the town of Johnston for a full hearing, and that they provide minutes with, and reasoning.
Just, Madam Chair, do council have any suggestion as to when that hearing should be? And I go to the solicitor really, because I mean, it's.
If I may, because I want to make sure that when we get the order to go back, that we implement it properly. This was the first step in the process under the statute, but based on the affidavit, the information attached to it, if it's determined that reasonable suspicion exists, then the next step where the mailing is sent out for the full evidentiary hearing to proceed after that. So that is the process we will follow.
Correct.
Based on this remand, and I just wanted to make sure I was gonna follow that process. And so that's what that first hearing will be that reasonable suspicion based on the affidavit and the contents of it. I'll work with the Board of Canvassers to, schedule the hearing as soon as possible, given the timeliness of events. I'll make that commitment without being able to give you a specific date,
Okay.
but I will make that commitment to this board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will be prepared to present everything that we have at that particular hearing.
Very good.
Whenever it's assigned, we're
Very good.
prepared.
Mr. Conley, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just want to reaffirm so that Mr. Bevelacqua and I are on the same page at that time, that this is the reasonable suspicion hearing
Correct.
on the affidavit and the contents. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I personally think there should be an expedited hearing. Early voting has already commenced. That's good.
If I may, Madam
Yes.
Chairman?
Yeah.
I think from what I heard from Commissioner Pierce is that we should have a hearing on this matter, period. And that's what my understanding is, not that we're hearing to see whether reasonable suspicion exists. I mean, I'm perceiving it differently. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I'd like that clarified.
Okay. Mr. Marcascio, would you assist with
I
us?
mean, some of this, Madam Chair, is really left, I think, in the first instance, to the local board to decide as to how much evidence they hear initially, because if there is any error with that, they can bring this back up. I don't want to micromanage the way that the town addresses this. If their solicitor believes that the two-step process is a reasonable suspicion, and then mailing out the postcard, that seems consistent or a reasonable interpretation of the statute. I don't know. The question would be, would they have sufficient information to reach that first question? That's what I think the board is saying. Let's make sure that they have before them the evidence and can consider the witnesses if there's any concern with the level being met. And then it will go out with a postcard.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so Ray, let's go from the standpoint of the board meets next week and determines there's no reasonable suspicion. And has one of these 10-minute hearings and says, no reasonable suspicion, we don't care what the affidavits say. Then they would then appeal that to us.
That
and-
would be the final determination, and that would be ripe for review by this board. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Mrs. Johnson.
Ray, a clarifying question to Commissioner Scholl's point about early voting having started. The challenge is to the voters' registration in Johnson. So how does that impact the candidacy of the candidate if it is?
That's the big
so-
question,
yeah.
isn't it? I mean, I'm not here to advise either party.
Yeah.
But it does seem to me that what the local board has before it is a challenge to the voter registration for this individual. And that's under, well, it's the person who, right, it's the person, I believe that's Dennis Cardillo Jr. And that is directly 17(9.128). There are other ways to seek the disqualification of a candidate, for example. And that has been done. I remember that was done back in 1984 when Vincent Cianci ran for the open seat created by his own felony conviction. And that challenge was successful. My recollection is that possibly the same challenger brought the similar type challenge against the same person in 1991. And that person was not successful. And part of it was a question of timing as to the challenge to the qualification of the candidate himself. So I don't know what else to say other than that all the local board appears to have before, and I could be wrong because we don't have any record, unfortunately, is section 28 of chapter 9.1, which is to the voter registration.
Madam Chair, just
Yes,
one more.
Mr. Dees.
But with regard to the challenge that was made, the challenger filed it in a timely manner under the statute. As far as you can tell. I'm not trying to pin you down.
As far as a challenge to the voter registration,
Correct.
as far as a challenge to the voter registration, yes, that's correct. I believe that's correct. From what I've seen.
Well, I mean, I guess any delay with regard to the election is not the fault of the challenger, is what I'm getting at.
That question I could give advice on, but I'd rather not at this point.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. We prepared to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval of the motion. Thank you.
Madam Chairman of the board, thank you.
Thank you very
Give me
much.
these back.
Commissioners of the board, I'm just happy that you're gonna-
That's yours.
So are we.
Thank you.
I don't
How
know.
do you just need them? You should have had them.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I did have them. You're right. You're right. I've used them to take notes. Sorry. Sorry.
Take a quick break.
Okay.
Yeah, can we take 5 minutes?
That's a sticky. This goes back to the Rosillo. Remember those way back in time? It was Rosillo. And then someone got on the army and added A. So then Rosillo added 2 A's. Yeah, double A Rosillo, single A Rosillo.
Things people resort to.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Josh did politics. It's got to be.
That's why Cheryl Selma said, the order is going to be determined by lottery.
Really, that case?
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Otherwise, it's alphabetical.
This is giving you.
Which wasn't really fair.
No.
Six to now 100%.
Well, when we did March two,
I didn't think he was Cheryl.
but here's what I.
That's. Myself, all this is, if they win this issue, and
Much easier.
that's sure what it is. He's then not eligible to serve with
Yeah.
You have to be a qualified voter in order to,
I know.
use that hand.
Yeah. But that's all that used to go on by the board. And they would tell us.
And I was
that was
cringing.
no power, none of this, none of that.
And it's, yeah, I was doing a lot.
I think we.
And that company says, you investigate.
Into the laws.
These pictures of cars. Okay, so how do I use?
And you see the notice that went out.
Person actually.
Reporters were getting it wrong. Yeah, that's where I voted. I'm like, what's happening? Yeah, it's not.
The notice was to ask.
Yeah. Would be.
I didn't see anything in that evidence that convinced me that he wasn't a registered.
This was just a non-joint family feud. Of course. Christmas.
I think that's right. Or if they do, there should be a copy.
It's on the side of the building. You can't even drive down that
But
street.
that's where I.
Well,
Because that's why nobody.
Probably.
Statute
Because we'll
says-
be able to.
Yeah, there's statute.
Yeah.
There is statute.
Yeah.
So like what?
So we should have here, a copy of the statute, we don't have it. Okay, so last time I looked at it, morning, it said that section 28. it
Yeah.
has to be-
And he's like,
there's
can we
no
just,
towns
can we
within
just drive?
20
Whatever you
within
want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the voter registration. On the other hand, Constitution says, no person shall hold any civil office unless that person is a qualified elector for such office.
Yeah.
So right away, there's these conflicts.
So what, and I'm saying, if the challenger wins, well, if the challenged person wins the election and the challenge of his registration succeeds, then the election is voided and they could have.
You just have to start. How about people who voted for?
Yeah, well, but that's why this election is happening. As a matter of fact, this election is happening. So the issue is, if he doesn't win, it's moot. If the challenged person wins, then the issue would be to determine, that this needs to be finally determined. Because if he's not a registered voter, then he can't serve. So the office is vacant.
Yeah, we both certified as a winner, and then We'll just have a special election.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Oh, well. Why not let the voters decide?
That's
Well, we solved the issue.
I'd like to, oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm sure you, those 2 lines, I'm sure you did. I'm sure.
We'll get it done. Get it done.
This gentleman who's going over here, last meeting, he said, we were walking, and he said to me, "Is there could be precedent?" And I said, "I'm not sure." And he said, "Look at the books." And I said, "It depends what time we're finished."
Who's he from? Is he from New Jersey?
No. Bob has the card of the organization.
It's not our PR.
No,
No.
some sort of podcast.
Yeah, I can't
Oh,
remember the name.
Yeah. Ford is his last name. Ford?
Yes.
Ford's last name.
Oh.
Johnny Ford is his last name. He's, he follows the Libertarian Party.
You know what?
I really like him. Very busy.
I really, believe it or not, I have to get to a council meeting tonight. Is that not the worst? And I have to wait for executive session, which is at the end of the meeting. So, yeah, I am busy. So busy today. They're actually selling a school. They want to put affordable apartments. And so they put a bid in for it, so they want to discuss it. We're one of 2, I know.
This is
Bristol.
Also, to put some affordable housing.
I know, but it's not easy.
No.
And communities always kind of like leery of,
Not in my.
but these are middle class people. These are people making $60,000 a year. You know, people don't get it.
Terrible.
It really is.
And there is no easy answer to it.
Exactly.
And it's so complex. You get to affordable housing, and then these people have to be able to afford to live in it, get a regular living.
Absolutely. You should see our properties in Barrington. They're beautiful. We have 2 affordable apartment units. But they're like little villages. They're adorable. And they're perfect.
Oh, it can be done. Well, and the other issue is continuing administration.
Oh, yes.
And maintenance.
Challenge.
It's not easy, because, and this is not a negative, these people come, in many cases, from a situation where they get no direction in terms of that kind of, what I call civilized
Yeah.
living.
See, and you have an open mind with many people.
It's sad.
Yeah.
He moves it.
Woo-hoo. I'd like to start this again if we could. Who is it here? Who is it here? Who is it?
It's bad.
We ready to commence, Mr. Reposa?
Yeah, amazing.
Good. Well, that's good to hear.
We are back in session, and we are on item number 3. The board may vote to continue to hear the challenges relating to the nomination papers filed in accordance with the requirements Rhode Island General Laws 1714-13 and 1714-14 as continued from its August 16, 2022 hearing for Elijah Gizzarelli, Governor, Libertarian Party. I believe we'll hear from you first, Mr. Nunez.
Good afternoon, members of the board. At our previous meeting, the the board directed the staff to prepare for review any additional signatures available for the voters whose signatures are being reviewed. The presentation today includes any additional signatures that each voter has in their record. At that meeting, the board initially disqualified 21 signatures obtained on behalf of Mr. Elijah Gizzarelli, Libertarian candidate for governor, as well as one additional signature for which the vote was tied, for a total of 22 signatures. All of those signatures have been included in today's presentation. However, we've also included the multiple signatures within the file for each of those voters for you to review, which will be presented to you here today. Additionally, the staff was directed to review any voters who were potentially disqualified because on the nomination paper, the voter wrote a different address than the address which is listed in their voter record. But they are registered in the community for which they signed their nomination paper. We have included those additional voters in the presentation for you to review their signatures as well today. You each should have a packet for Mr. Gizzarelli's nomination papers. And as a brief summary, this office, governor requires 1,000 signatures, and Mr. Gizzarelli submitted 1,268 signatures. 987 were approved and 281 were disqualified. Mr. Gizzarelli needs 13 signature qualifications in order to qualify for the ballot. And we have 55 signatures available here to present to you for review.
If I may.
You are, sir?
My name is Sean Meisner. I am the vice chairman of the Libertarian. Oh, sorry about that.
You're loud enough.
There we go. Check, check. All right, sorry about that. My name is Sean Meisner. I'm the vice chairman of the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island. I'm here for Mr. William Hunt today. As he addressed before, he would not be able to make it today because he welcomed a new Rhode Islander to the state, I believe about 5 days old, happy and healthy.
Awesome.
So here to help represent the interests of the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island in my capacity as the vice chairman.
Very good.
What's the name of the new Rhode Islander?
I don't know if I want to give that information out quite. Anywho, so what I'd like to ask is, I know and I'm not sure if our candidate has either, but is there additional packets available
Yes,
for
we do
review
have
today?
additional packets for you. We definitely have extras, so.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. And who is this gentleman?
Madam Chair, I am Elijah Gizzarelli, the
Ah.
candidate.
Very good, thank you.
Shall we commence?
Yes, I'm sorry. If they're going to give testimony, we're not sure that's going to happen yet. Go ahead,
Do
Mr.
you
Nunez.
need to swear me in, or am I
Oh,
still
should I-
sworn in from?
You should swear.
Yes, I think he
you
should be
swear-
sworn in for
you should
today.
Swear it, Mr. Nunez. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Very good.
So our first signature for review is on Form 49, line 5. Trevor Souza? Here on the screen, you'll see that he only has one signature on file within the Central Voter Registration System of the CVRS.
Does the board wish to take an action on the signature?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I don't think that signature is valid because we can't reasonably, at least I can't reasonably identify it to be the signature of the voter that it purports to be. And that's according to the statute, 1714-8.
Anyone else have any comment?
I would agree.
So do we have a motion pertinent to this particular signature?
Move to disqualify.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous that this is not a valid signature.
Next signature is on Form 54, line 1.
I would move to approve that signature.
Yes, on the left.
We have a motion to approve the signature. Do we have a second? Seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous. It's a good signature. Next.
Next signature, Form 56, line 4.
Line 4, you say?
Correct. Madison Craig.
The print voter's name looks a lot like the signature.
Yes, it does. Move we accept.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Ms. Bettencourt. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous. It's a good signature. Next.
Next signature, Form 62, line 15. Patricia Rose.
62, line 15.
The print last name is the only thing that just looks a little small, but not too much.
Does the board wish to take an action on this signature?
No, I can't reasonably identify that to be the signature of the person.
I would move to disqualify.
Mr. Pierce moves to disqualify, seconded by
I'll second it.
Mr. West. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to disqualify the signature. Next.
Next signature, Form 77, line 3. Wendy Lawrence.
I have a question for Miguel, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead,
That-
Mr.
that-
Diesmo.
Signature that's appearing on the left-hand side of the illustration up on the board, is that a partial of something?
That is a signature that is on file within the CVRS.
And I-
We included it because it's in the voter's record. It could have skewed as it went through the scanner, but we did provide it because that's the best image available as an additional
So,
signature.
so those one on the left is, and the one on the right are from two different,
No, I would say they're likely from the same voter, but they're both, they're two different images.
right?
Here, left and right.
But
They're
are they
both in the
from two
record.
different locations? Are they from two different
documents,
two
yes.
different documents? So the one on the right-hand side is,
The one on the left appears to be a digital signature from a pad from the DMV, and the one on the right appears to be the paper form.
Well,
Board wish to take an action?
I don't think you can reasonably identify that to be the signature of the voter, and I move to disqualify.
Moved by
I
Mr.
would-
Schultz. Do we have a second?
second.
Seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to disqualify the signature. Next.
We're going to stay in the same form. Oops. Form 77, line 13, Andrew Schmidt.
That looks right to me. Do we have a motion?
I would move to accept.
Moved by Mrs. Johnson. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by the vice chair. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to approve.
Same form, however, line 14, it's
14.
Ronald Schmidt.
Yeah, I remember this one.
It's okay. Does the board wish to take an action on the signature?
I vote to deny this.
Motion to
based on
deny,
the-
Second.
seconded by Mr. Scholes, motion made by Mr. West. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to disallow the signature. Next.
Form 79, line 4, Marcelo Molinari.
Get the way.
It looks like it.
I move to approve it.
I
I would move to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mr. D. Simone, seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval of the signature. Next.
Form 81, line 10, Mary Elizabeth Arnold.
Mary Elizabeth Arnold.
So Miguel, I have one question. There's some notations to the left of the line 10 and 11 with initials.
That would
What-
be
what are
our
those?
staff.
That's your staff.
Yes.
Board wish to take an action on the signature?
Move to disallow.
Yeah, I vote to deny this.
Who made the motion? Mr. Pierce made a motion to disallow. Do we have a second?
Yes, I do.
Seconded by Mr. West. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous to disallow the signature. Next.
Form 81, line 11, James Phelan.
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 I move to disqualify.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Mr. Scholes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Unanimous to disallow the signature. Next.
Form 82, line 1, Amy Castaldi.
Mhm,
That looks right to me.
mhm.
We have a motion?
I move to accept.
Second.
Moved by Mr. D. Simone, seconded by Vice Chair Pierce to accept the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to accept. Next.
We're going to stay on the same form, Form 82, line 2. Joanne Duperon.
Doesn't look good.
Move to deny.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. D. Simone to deny the signature. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Unanimous to deny. Next.
One additional on the same form, line 5, Shania Delgado.
Do we have an action wish to take?
I move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. D. Simone, second by Ms. Bettencourt. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Unanimous to approve.
Form 85, line 3, Sean Murphy.
Looks right.
Move to accept.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. D. Simone. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's approved. Next.
Form 88, line 12, Regina Walker.
88, line 12. That looks good.
I move to accept.
Move to
Second.
accept, seconded by Mr. Scholes. Motion made by Ms. Bettencourt. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous to approve the signature. Next.
Same form, line 14, Suzette Parks.
Mm,
Suzette Parks.
Sounds like she has a different last name.
It's a
now.
different last name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is on D. Yeah, it looks similar.
Like Matt,
Yeah, the Susette sound looks the same.
I vote to deny this. Doesn't matter.
Moved by Mr. West to deny,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Scholes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Two in opposition. The motion carries to deny the signature.
Same form, one more signature, Lauren Musselman. Form
That's
88.
Line 19?
Line 19, correct.
Move to deny.
Make a
Second.
motion to deny, seconded by Mr. DeSimone. Motion made by Mr. Scholes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to deny that signature. Next.
Form 92, line 13, Elizabeth Lewandowski.
And is that one, Miguel, where we only have a signal signature to compare to?
Correct.
She wrote it like she signed it, though.
What about the printed name?
The
Does that
printed,
look-
the printed is almost
Does that
the
look
same.
alike? I
Yeah.
mean, doesn't it seem to look alike? And I think we gave him benefit of the doubt the
Yeah.
last time. I'd move to approve.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone. Do we have a second? Seconded by Ms. Bettencourt. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's approved unanimously. Next.
Form 94, line 2, Barbara McCahey.
Barbara Mulcahy. Again, the printer's voter's name looks like the signature on the right.
Looks the same.
Yeah.
Move to accept.
Moved by Mr. Scholes. Do we have a second? Seconded by Ms. Bettencourt. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's approved unanimously.
We're going to remain on the same Form 94, however, line 15, Daniel Howard.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. West is opposed.
Again, I'm going to reiterate what I did the last meeting. It looks like the same person filled out this form. And that's not proper. So I will vote to deny.
Motion.
Just on the clarification on that, the party, you can have someone else fill in the voter's name as well as the address. The signature cannot be.
Here's the problem with that, Ray. If you're looking at trying to match up letters, sometimes people print, sometimes they write. Somebody fills this form in for you, and we have a problem with your signature. I look at letters that are printed and handwritten, sometimes they come to by the same person. You can say, yes, this person is the signature on that, all right? Good case, my point is how I sign my name. I don't write my W's, I print my W's.
Mhm.
But that's how I write, how I print my name, how I write my name. So if you want to compare my signatures, you can do that by matching that. So this is the problem that I have. If people are going to sign this, then maybe, I don't know, I just have a problem with that, right? That I can't really definitively say, yes, I see these signatures match, but if I see something from the handprint, from the printed side, that matches that's on the written side, yeah, I can approve it. But by having somebody else fill in that form, I can't. So that's my reason. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but that's my reason.
Thank you, Mr. West. The motion carries. One in opposition.
Two in opposition.
Oh, Mr.
'cause I
Scholes
can't
in
reas-
opposition
I
as
can't
well.
reasonably identify the signature.
Motion carries by majority. Next.
Very next line, line 16, Caitlin Howard.
Do we have a
I move
motion?
to accept.
Moved by Mr. Scholes. Do we have a second? Seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. West is in opposition. Motion carries. Signature is good. Next.
Form 94, line 18. Donna Santilli.
Move to deny.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Pierce to deny, seconded by Mr. Scholes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous to deny the signatures authenticity. Next.
Form 96, line 2, Alicia Perry.
I would second.
Moved by Mrs. Johnson to deny, seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. Any discussion?
Yes, Madam
West?
Chair. I'm looking at how they're signing these forms. And the person in line 3 kind of went into line 2.
Mhm.
And that kind of skews the signature to me.
It's a good point.
Yeah, that is a good point, actually.
Because if you
That's a
look at the
very good
P,
point,
it actually looks identical to the P there without that loop over it.
But we can't compare because of.
Right. Yeah.
It
that's
does,
what
it
it's signing.
it skews it, yeah.
He's right, there's two.
Be helpful if the lines were bigger.
Yeah, we had that conversation last time,
Yeah.
Mr. Pierce.
Okay.
They really do need to have bigger areas here.
On review, I can see some similarity with the Ys in both places.
So are we rescinding our motion?
Yes.
Rescinding our motion and our second?
Move it in the second.
Okay. Motion has been rescinded. Do we have another motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Vice Chair Pierce moves to approve the
Second, aye.
signature, seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion?
With thanks to Commissioner
Yes.
West.
Thank you, Mr. West. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion, the signature is good.
Madam Chair, I would just point out that I believe under my count, that's number 13.
That is correct.
Okay.
He needed 13 to qualify.
How many signatures are left for review?
We had 55 total. I don't have a, I'm not.
Oh, wait a
I don't have
minute.
Tally.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
32, according to Mr.
30
Tavares.
32 left?
32,
30.
I think it's highly unlikely there will be any challenge, but by reviewing all of them, if somebody were to challenge these papers, you'd have a record of
Okay.
those that are
That's
being
fine.
accepted.
I just point out that we're at the qualification, but that's fine. I don't mind looking at them. Gives me good practice. I don't.
Thank you, Lou. Okay, next.
Form 96, line 24, Kyle Cabral.
I move to be accepted.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the signature. Mr. West, seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion?
Just a question, does it matter? There's literally no address. It's like almost.
Like his pen ran out of ink?
And then a D.
Let me
I don't know
try.
if that.
There should be an address. I mean, this, I don't know what happened. It looks like there was at the beginning, and maybe Miguel can explain how he
Any idea, Miguel?
ascertained this address. Did you actually, was there an address that began with the 6? If you recall, or your staff may have done it.
We did locate the voter. They are registered in Cranston, and that is why they're included in this. More than likely, there was only one voter by that name in Cranston. So that's how we identified them.
And by the 6, perhaps?
Correct, and by the 6 and the Ave, which looks like at the
Okay.
end.
All right, so based on that and the motion made and seconded, we shall vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to approve.
Form 96, page 2, line 1, Keith Brando.
Does the board wish to take an action on this signature?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to accept. All in favor? Signify by
Aye.
saying aye. Those opposed? Everyone's in favor. Motion carries to accept the signature. Next.
Same page. Ayad James. Line 4 on this page 2.
Yeah, I remember this was the issue last time. Yeah.
Spelled his name with an E instead of an A. Yes, that's odd.
It doesn't look the same. Even the F's
No,
are different.
no,
We sure it's the same voter?
I move to deny.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. Pierce. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it's unanimous to disallow the signature. Next.
We have several more on this same page. Line 9, Joseph DeMonico.
I mean, they didn't even sign it.
Move to deny.
A second on the motion.
Moved by Mr. Scholl to deny the signature, seconded by Mr. Bettenker. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The signature is not allowed. Next.
Line 12 on this same page. Ethan Piccioni.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Pierce, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to approve the signature. Next.
Form 96, page 2, line 20, same page.
It looks like he signed and then printed.
Mm.
It does match.
Reverse order.
I think.
Yeah, you're right.
Move to accept. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Ms. Bettenker to approve the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous to approve. Next.
Form 103, line 1, Robin Ward.
We have a motion to approve by Ms. Bettenker, seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous to approve. Next.
Form 124, line 1, John Sanchez.
Line 1. Yeah, looks good. We have a motion?
Move to accept.
Second. Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Any discussion?
Was that to accept, Madam
To
Chair?
accept, sorry.
Shoot.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimously approved to accept the signature. Next.
Form 126, line 18, Sophia Haley.
I mean,
Do we have a
this is
motion?
that Same situation, right? Well, I guess not. It's not. I'll move to deny.
Move-
Second.
By Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Mr. West. Any discussion? The motion is to deny the signature. Voting in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next.
Form 134, line 1, Raymond Hill.
Looks right.
I move to accept.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Any discussion? Hearing none, the motion to accept the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to accept. Next.
Form 142, line 2, Cindy Castillo.
Looks right to me.
Move to accept.
Moved by Mr. Scholl. Do we have a second? Seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The signature is accepted. Next.
Form 142, line 20. Rosa Rodriguez.
It's like Morse code.
Move to deny.
Second.
We have a motion to not accept the signature by Mr. West, seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So the signature is rejected.
143, line 2. Maria Wrigley.
Hmm.
Move to deny.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to deny the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? It's unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
We have quite a few on this form, so we'll continue down to line 10. Daniel Risch.
Oh, I see.
What's his first name?
Daniel,
Daniel, looks like Don or Darrell. Can't quite make it out.
I think he's just, yeah.
Second.
Motion to deny, seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Signature is denied. Next.
Line 13, Patrick Igo.
Well, those all look alike.
Yeah.
Scratches.
Move to deny.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Pierce, seconded by Mr. Scholes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Line 23, Daniela Hurtado.
Do we have a motion?
Move to deny.
Motion by Mr. Scholes to deny the authenticity of that.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. DeSimone. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Mrs. Johnson is opposed to the motion. Motion carries to deny the signature. Next.
Line 26, Michael Basquiat.
I'll move to deny.
Second.
Yeah, second.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone and seconded by Mr. Scholes to deny the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous to deny. Next.
Line 30, Tristan Murray.
Move to accept.
Moved by Mr. Scholes to accept the signature, seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to approve the signature. Next.
Very next line, line 31,
Matthew.
Matthew
Cleverly.
Cleverly.
Move to accept.
Moved by Mr. Scholes. We have a second?
Second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Matthew did not cleverly write his name, however.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good
Couldn't
point.
resist. Sorry.
Motion carries.
Sorry.
Signature is good. Next.
We are going to move to the second page of the same form, so the very next page, 143, page 2, line 14, Ashley Shiano.
Looks like just put her initials there. Yeah. Moved by Ms. Bettenker. Do we have to approve? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to approve. Next.
And same page, line 21. Francesca Bashon, Babashian.
Move to deny.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to deny the signature. Do we have a second? It's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Form 144, line 16, Kathleen O'Neill.
Kathleen O'Neill. Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Mr. Schultz to approve the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to approve. Next.
Same form, line 17. Carolyn Single.
Move to approve.
Moved by Vice Chair Pierce to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Schultz. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to approve.
Form 147, line 5, Jeremy Wilner.
Hmm.
Move to deny.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schultz, seconded by Mrs. Johnson to deny. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed.
Form
Signatures
148,
denied. Go ahead, sorry.
Form 148, line 6, Melanie Dubard.
Tied.
Move to accept.
Moved by Mr. Schultz, seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, signatures approved unanimously. Next.
Form 150, line 12, Richard Lito.
Toledo. It's the board's pleasure.
Move to deny.
Move to deny by Mr. Schultz. We have a second.
Second to deny.
Seconded by Mr. DeSimone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it's unanimous to deny. Next.
Form 152, line 7, Michael Kyrgios.
I think this brings up Commissioner West's position here. One person signed for three.
I think you're right.
Move to deny.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schultz, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to deny the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it's unanimous to deny the authenticity. Next.
Form 155, line 10, Kathleen Oriello.
Move to deny.
Second.
We have a motion to deny, seconded by Mr. Schultz. Who made the motion?
I did.
Mr. DeSimone. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Form 159, page 2, line 2, Julie Peters.
Page 2, line 2. Let's see it. Do you have it? Oh, the second page. Got it. I was looking at the first page.
Motion to deny.
Second.
Motion by Mr. West, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to deny the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As opposed, unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Form 163, line 1, Annie or Ann Newman.
The printed name looks right. Moved by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Ms. Bettenker to accept the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it's unanimous. Next.
Form
Approval.
164 on line 2, Brooke Bamford.
Brooke Bamford.
Motion to deny.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Moved by Mr. West, seconded by Ms. Bettenker to deny the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
This is our final signature for this candidate.
Woo-hoo.
Form 171, line 1, Jose Figueroa.
171, line 1. I don't know.
I'm gonna move to deny only because he didn't shoot like he did on those two.
Motion by Mr. D. Simone. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Scholes to deny. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to deny the signature. So the
That
final
completes our
count,
review.
27, is that right?
I have 28.
28,
Have been approved, 27. were
28,
re-
27 down, denied, okay.
So what was the final count?
28 were accepted by you, 27
27
were
denied.
denied.
As far as
So
the
then he
nomination,
needed 13 to qualify to be on the ballot.
put your mic on.
I think it's 114 signatures.
Ray, do we need a motion that he qualifies based upon our finding or no? I'll move that candidate Ghizzarelli qualifies for the position which he seeks nomination for.
Yep, I have a motion by Mr. D. Simone, seconded by Mr. Schultz. Any discussion of the board? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it's unanimous. Good luck.
Congratulations.
I'd like to thank the board and the staff for the additional time and review for this.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Madam
to the
Chair, I
staff.
think we should also thank the Secretary of State's office for providing us with the additional information that we
Yes.
needed.
Yes, that was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Second motion.
Same.
Same.
It was a comment and a statement, a good statement, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want to know. I don't understand why we kept going.
Getting stuff to
Thank you, Miguel. Appreciate that. Okay. Okay. So we are skipping 4 at the moment, and we are going to go to item number 5. The board may vote to meet in executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42455, subsection A4, concerning an investigative proceeding regarding allegations of criminal misconduct. We're going into executive session at 2:55. Is that right? Moved by Mr. Schultz. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Johnson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are in executive session momentarily.
Parenthetical, I'd like to go to the place that he had on there, the landscape. Very nice. Well done, Madam Chair.
I was getting tongue-tied at the end there. Tongue-tied.
Understand.
I start getting like really giddy during that process because I'm just like.
I know, it's like, okay.
Forgetting.
But I start like bitching.
It's about the same thing, I think.
Oh, come on.
That's just for Lou, 'cause I gave
Oh, okay. I thought you cut down another tree.
I hope they recycle these.
I know. Oh, that's good.
I thought we were gonna quit at 13 when we got to 13. I said, okay, we're golden. I didn't know we had to do them all.
That's just being cake.
Yeah, yeah. You're right, never know. When I was younger chasing these signatures, the candidate would always, like, the candidate. You know what I mean? And now some of these people come in and they come for a local. You crazy? You're gonna get some, you're gonna lose some of them. But
Back, back then, they were really well organized party committees and so
Mm.
forth. And those are pretty well run by the board.
yeah, you're right, you're right.
You know, the party committees in each ward would go out and say, go get somebody's signature.
Yeah, yep.
And they knew where to go to get them.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I can remember sometimes having like an event, you know, and inviting people to an event, and then at the event, while they're here, we used to have my old ward in Providence, we used to have like a ward breakfast. Every year they have like a ward breakfast right around that time, and you have like 150 people at the breakfast, and they'd all be signing nomination papers.
Sure, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I think you're right. I don't think it's done anymore. I think that's. I think that just tells everybody that. That's what I tell everybody. Just tells everybody I'm old. Remember that.
Yeah. No, but
They don't do it like that anymore.
no, that's for sure. They don't.
And you got some of the people now, they don't even want to knock on doors anymore. They want to do, I talked to a couple of them, they want to do everything by social media. Okay, but you're asking somebody for their vote, I think you need to reach out and touch that person.
Yeah,
But that's,
absolutely.
you know,
Yeah. So, but here we go. Oh, we gotta go in.
Oh, we're going to executive session, right?
How are you? Okay.
Yeah, I see 15. Oh, that's why.
Yeah, yeah, it's further up here. Yeah, but my kids.
When you click from the judge, you'll see that, you know, sometimes the voice. Oh, absolutely. You need here.
No, that's where the visual atmosphere here is amazing.
Yeah.
It's really, Rhode Island is special. So, but I'm sorry to interrupt, no. Nice to meet you.
And. Gloria was very pleased that he said.
Yeah, no,
He's very happy. After she got
yeah, I'd say that for a while.
So tell us thank you.
Yeah. We don't, we never saw it. Yeah, you know, like, in the basement.
Oh, so it is just like so.
She was retired and she gets to go in a little bit during, she has to do home stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Which the home stuff everybody hates, I mean, so. When this is right, you'll notice.
Yeah.
It's almost, on college level, you'll see some schools, like, especially some of the bigger schools, not that community schools, and you see the difference between the kids who are residents in the school and your experience from the community. I think it's.
Gonna shift.
I'm glad he's doing well, I'm glad he's doing well. And nice to meet you.
Nice, great to meet you.
And I meant what I said, you can call anytime.
I appreciate that. Yeah, still be on my mail. Once that comes online.
What's going on? I'm sorry.
If that were to motion. Yeah, I mean, just the way they set it up.
Take a little break after that. You got a pretty shot. You should get the people.
Was a great idea. We'll find out, that's right. The last candidate just got on, so I think some momentum. Yeah, the board before when it was open or? I don't know. Yeah, I have, I mean, this was all. I know. Yeah. I'm waiting to drive by sometime. You will do. Did fall. Yeah, so I mean, if they didn't, the board, I mean, unless the board got more papers, which I don't think they did, I think probably not. And, yeah. That's a lot. I don't know. Yeah.
Hey, you want some breaking news? You gotta let me say it on the air. You want breaking news or not? Oh, that's right, there is no. All right, there's a new candidate on the ballot. You gotta let me say it. Come on, let me say it on the air, come on. 15 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Must feel. Thanks. All right.
That all got redone. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but it's a lot. I think lifespan was that. Some that. Are you in the AG's office, North Main or South Main, or are you? Oh, wow. You got the parking down there? So I don't get a parking spot. I actually own an electric scooter, so I'm gonna drive. Only 30. Okay. I'll go to the plan. I didn't try to. Yeah, where do you live? Yeah, can't street for that. Yeah, so you can go drive the final squad and then just keep the scooter on your phone.
Yeah, they. He does 3 meetings.
Yes.
Hang on, I gotta clear it back there. Listen, I'll tell you, if it wasn't for you guys, I'd tell you, we don't like it now because I have all this stuff. If you guys don't show up, then we don't. No, I live my shit together. Yeah. If you're not there, that's it. You have no idea. No, it's truth. I mean, it's just truth.
Yeah,
You know, it's what it is. Oh, I know. I mean, I just, listen, if you do me a favor, it's gonna go on the whole committee. Can you just share around and just, again? If the two of you aren't there. You know what? So I can't tell you how much that means.
No, I can call it, I just wish I could call a couple of them. I gotta do the thing, but, I will say calls and work there.
Wow. It's really required for your,
All right, buddy. That's what I'm doing.
The secretary does it.
No, I
think it makes sense. It should be part of all the systems that you take away.
It is what it is. Remote play, baby.
Yeah, those small kind of things.
I like that. He's got a lot of, you.
Paid for it. Well, we paid for it. And not everything goes down. No states down.
So where is it going to be published?
It actually was published in the Journal of Law.
Didn't you like
No, I
Yeah.
was saying, if me, if I made them down, I want you to take that as on the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that one?
Yeah, I don't want you to take, when we make it on the ballot, take that and then it debates.
Yeah, it's pretty. I've been up there.
743.
743.
Yeah, but we got
Yeah, yeah.
Super smooth.
Yeah, very small. Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen that crew. White's best friend.
Oh,
so, and her two kids in the area. One's there. She'll- Yeah. So here a lot of. Oh. You come in? Yeah, no, that's cool.
You watch the show.
No, they live in.
It's, you didn't have a campaign.
You on radio? No, I didn't.
I have friends.
Oh.
No,
Sometimes you have to pick an hour.
This year?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna get it in the ballot. We're putting in insert. Yeah, every year, usually the next day or so. I just wanted, because we gotta get the November application this week, so it's the same thing. Yep, that part's added. We're gonna work that. On the one I gave you, it doesn't say 24 hours elections Dropbox, it just says 24 hours Dropbox, so we're gonna add the word elections in there. We still have a picture of everyone, so it's easy to understand, but I wanna add the word elections to it. That's the only difference on the one I sent you. You notice it after the support. I just wanna get it to candidates this week and then it be done.
It's beyond.
And then we got, I would imagine we're gonna probably have a decent amount of mail houses.
Yeah,
For the town
everything.
processing. We'll drop off the line. We had 3,600 we sent last night. Today, I'm sure it'll be like, I don't think it'll.
Yeah, I usually.
You'll get a lot of time work done, so.
Everything is.
Yes. Yeah, because we don't want to waste it. Or else it's like being of not wasting.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything.
Well, there's, it should only be like less than 100 people. Yeah, yeah.
We're talking about people who are beyond like, we're talking about people who are hopefully talking about.
Yeah, we just, I think for this election, yes, and then after that, we'll run out. We have to go by. But we'll use the regular ones after that. We just have them sitting there, they're still good. We figure we might as well use them, it's only a couple hundred for November, so. Unless it's a huge problem.
We're trying to see it from. That one, the burden.
Yeah. Yeah.
The presets are hopefully. I mean, we're working with Rhode and tweaking that and tweaking.
This is. Excuse me one second. Yes, sir.
These must have cost.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't like it on the road. You know, there's people that they kill.
Okay. Correct, yeah, so, yeah, right. Right. All right, thanks. Bye. Elon. Okay. Oh, yeah, no, you can just call me. Yes. Well, I'm not, I'm fine, but.
Hi, how are you?
I appreciate
Yeah. Yeah, it,
Oh.
I have this. I mean, we just, I just. Fine home. Yeah, but if it's not, we don't know, it could be a sad night if you're like, but. Share with you. Right, that would be a sad. Take a look at it. Just, incredible job.
Always coloring. My grandmother, yeah.
She's not.
She always coloring hair, always wore mascara, lipstick, always wore heels. Always wore heels.
Yeah, my grandmother was 79 and she always did. She hated having her hair. I think like if she had been alive when my mom went gray, she would have like screamed at
Oh, I
me.
know. I always say,
Okay, what is some?
we used to do this in the
It
basement
was,
oh my God, at 50 Branch Ave.
Diane, like, was that a black lung? Remember when you got so sick? And she used it from the.
I actually got a blood clot, which I've never had in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
But that,
Well, I always attributed it to that, but I'm thinking there was more to it.
well, but it could have been a combination.
It might have exacerbated my situation. Since 2016,
Okay, so some other two.
yeah. My 9-year term is up in 25.
Many years from now.
This
No,
guy,
not really.
What's it, what'd they say?
Not
This guy
really.
needs 30 something?
Oh, I'm gonna sit in your, I'm gonna sit in your seat for a
38,
minute.
something like
Give me a nudge if I.
Okay.
Because I'm starting to get tongue tied here.
Doesn't have a lot of money, like to look at.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. Right, that's what he said. Yeah, I remember that. Oh, goodness. Goodness gracious.
Compliments to the staff for making this.
No kidding. You're right, it could have been a lot worse. Like in the old days, you mean?
Okay.
No.
Bob, do you say the state police are not being cooperative?
They told me they can provide coverage like on primaries on each day. And if we had a reason to think there was gonna be some contentious meeting, they would have a presence. Other than that, they can't do Monday through Friday.
Are we meeting before the primary?
I don't believe it.
Okay, you're gonna let me
But I
know.
tell you, your town, your city, they sent me a printout of what they would do about providing. A lot of the security companies don't have. Now, last time, 2020, we had Allied Security. One morning, Rick came in, security guy, they were here 24/7. Sound asleep.
To resume open session and seal the minutes of the executive session. Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. DeSimone, or Mr. West, I'm sorry. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are back in session at 3:22 PM. We're going back to item number 4 on the agenda. The board may vote to continue to hear the challenges relating to the nomination papers filed in accordance with the requirements of Rhode Island General Law 1714-13 and 1714-14 as continued from its August 3rd, 2022 and August 16th, 2022 hearings for Paul Rihanna Jr., Governor Independent. Miguel, we'll start with you again. We see that Mr. Rihanna is here, and if necessary, we'll swear him in, but let's hear from you first, Miguel.
Paul Rihanna Jr., independent candidate for governor. This contest requires 1,000 signatures. Mr. Rihanna submitted 1,189. 961 were approved. 228 were disqualified. Mr. Rihanna needs 39 signature qualifications in order to make the ballot. 72 signatures are here for you to review today. I'd like to remind the board that the signatures for the following three voters were not be included today because they were qualified by the board based on witness testimony at the previous meeting. Those of Caleb Baker, Kevin Tibbetts, and Sheila McDonald. So we did not include those in with the signature review
Very
today.
good.
So
Go ahead,
are
Lou.
they a part of the 39 needed?
No, they are completely separate. I just wanted to make, so the board would know that we did not include them since the board had voted to already accept those.
Very good.
So we shall commence with Form 1, Line 2. Heidi Cairo.
Does the board wish to make a motion?
Well, it doesn't really purport to be the signature of the voter, so I move to deny.
Motion by Mr. Scholes to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. West. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Both the signature is denied unanimously. Next.
Form 3, Line 3, David Martian.
That doesn't bear any resemblance, and I move to deny.
Moved by Mr. Scholes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Signature is denied. Next.
Same form, Line 5, Frank Commando.
I moved to deny. It's the same signature from number 4. Person signed twice.
Yes.
Second.
Motion denied.
So we have a motion by Ms. Bettenker, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to deny. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Form 5, Line 3, Denise Ethier.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve the signature. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? It's approved unanimously. Next.
Form 6, Line 2, Michael McVeigh.
Is there a motion?
Move to deny.
Second.
Mrs. Johnson moved to deny, seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? It's unanimous to deny. Next.
Form 8, Line 1, George Kane III.
Move to deny.
Motion to deny by Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Mr. Scholes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Signature is denied. Next.
Same form on Line 6, Jason Ratto.
Line 6, you say?
Line 6 on Form
Yep.
8, correct.
Got it.
Move to deny.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Mr. Pierce to deny. We have, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Form 8, Line 9, Susan Tabor.
Make a motion to be accepted.
Okay, it's
Second.
approved by, a move to approve by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Mr. West. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to approve that signature. Next.
Same form, line 12, Carol Simeoni.
Line 12, Carol Simeon.
I'll move to accept. Can't really tell. It looks like there's another signature that runs into it.
Yeah.
In the benefit.
So that's a motion by Mr. DeSimone. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous to approve that signature. Next.
Same form, Form 9, line 1.
Karen Iacobo.
Karen Iacobo, yes.
What do we think?
Move to accept.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to approve that signature. Next.
Same form, line 13, David Mooney.
Line 13. David Mooney.
Move to deny.
Shows moves to deny the signatures, seconded by Mr. DeSimone. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, signature is denied unanimously. Next.
Form 10, line 1, William Barame Jr.
William Larame.
What line is that?
Line
One.
Line 1.
Line one.
Yeah.
Move to deny.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. DeSimone. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimously denied. Next.
Form 21, line 4, Andrew Ullman.
Andrew Ullman.
It looks
the
like
same to me.
I'll move to approve.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, it's unanimous to approve the signature. Next.
Form 24, line 5, Tribby Foster.
Tribby Foster.
I'll second that.
Moved by Ms. Bettenker, seconded by Vice Chair Pierce to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those
Aye.
opposed, unanimous to approve. Next.
Form 25, line 1, Caro Virgilio Dobrowska.
Move to deny.
Second.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Mr. Schultz to deny the signature. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it's unanimous to deny. Next.
Form 36, line 1, Matthew Tripoli.
Looks right. Matthew's the same. It looks like this was disqualified for wrong address and not for signature. Am I
Correct.
right?
So do we have any information about the address, Michael?
This individual, Matthew Tripoli, is registered in North Kingstown. They are registered at 849 Stony Lane, so that's why we included them in your review today, even though they
Okay.
wrote the wrong address.
Move to accept.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Ms. Bettenker to accept this voter's signature. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, it's unanimous to accept. Next.
Form 37, line 5, Cynthia Najos, or Knows.
I move to accept.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Scholes, seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those
Aye.
opposed, unanimous to accept the signature. Next.
Form 42, line 1, Jane Elizabeth Johnson.
Move to deny.
We have a motion by Mr. Scholes. Do we have a second?
Looks like one person signed for three.
Hmm.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. De Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. Pierce, you're opposed to the motion?
Yes.
Motion carries. Signature is denied. Next,
Form 43, line 1, Danielle Brilliant.
oh, okay, so we'll have to swear you in if you're going to provide testimony. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your name for the record, please.
Paul Rayana Jr.
Okay, very good. You wish to say something on this signature?
This is actually my manager, my supervisor. If you want, I can call her. She's actually at work right now, so I can't bring her in.
Are you familiar with her signature?
Yeah, I see it every day because she's my manager.
Okay.
So you recognize that signature?
Oh, yeah.
Move to accept.
Moved by Mr. Scholes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. De Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Unanimous approval. Next,
Form 44, line 4, Pamela Taylor O'Donnell.
O'Donnell, line 44, line 4.
So one person signed for both.
Hmm.
Move to deny.
Moved by Mr. Scholes to deny the signature. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to deny the signature. Next,
Same form, line 6, Peter Spencer.
Second.
so is that a motion to approve?
I second.
Moved and seconded to approve the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval of the signature. Next,
Form 48, line 4, Donna Silva.
Did you say 48?
Yes,
Did we do
48.
46? I had a highlighted one on 46. That's why I was asking.
Oh, that was one of the three that I
Oh,
mentioned
okay.
at the beginning.
Okay.
yes.
Sorry.
I would move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the signature by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Ms. Bettencourt. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimously approved. The signature. Next,
Form 49, line 7, Jennifer Leary.
Move approval.
I got one motion to approve and one to deny in either ear. So now what do we do?
I'll second the approval.
We hear no seconds for yours, I
No,
assume.
no, I second thought out loud.
We have a motion by
I'll
Mr.
withdraw my vote.
Very good. Motion by Mr. Pierce, seconded by Mr. De Simone to accept the signature. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed.
Who's opposed? Mr. West? And Mr. Scholes are both opposed. Motion carries to approve the signature. Next,
Form 50, line 4, Megan Tiernan.
line 4.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. West, seconded by Mr. De Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries to approve. Next,
Form 50, line 25, Ryan Schroeder. Form 50, line 25, yes.
oh dear.
What about line 9?
That was one of the ones from last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did that one already.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay, you weren't here.
See the R and the S. I move to approve.
Moved by Mrs. Johnson to approve. Do we have a second? seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the signature signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Opposed?
Mr. Scholes is opposed to the motion. Motion carries to approve. Next.
Form 77, line 1, Ronald Letelier.
What is the
Move
pleasure?
approval.
Move approval by Mr. D. Simone. Do we have a second? Seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? The signature is approved unanimously. Next.
Form 81, line 16, Joseph Kavanaugh.
81, line 16.
Move to deny.
Motion by Mr. Scholes, seconded by Ms. Bettenker to deny the signature. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Form 92, line 3, Stephanie
Hold on, we
Crowley.
got to get to the second packet here.
Oh, yeah.
Form 92, line 3.
Stephanie Crowley.
Motion
Stephanie
to
Crowley.
deny.
Motion by Mr. West, seconded by Mrs. Johnson to deny the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimously denied. Next.
Next line, line 4, Stephen Burgoyes.
Looks right. I'm so sorry.
I'll second that.
Did you make a motion, Ms. Bittenker?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to approve the motion, the signature?
Yes.
Very good. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimously approved that signature. Next.
Form 101, line 1, John Borges.
101, line 1. John Borges. Oh, yeah, that's right. Mrs. Johnson moved to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Scholes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to approve. Next.
Form 104, line 1, Alan Myers, or Myers.
Looks the same. Do you have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Vice Chair Pierce, seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Move to approve the signature. Next.
Form 105, line 23, David Simpson.
Yes, that's right.
Move to deny.
Second.
Moved by Vice Chair Pierce to deny, seconded by Mr. West. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Form 106, line 1, Joshua Vega.
Move to deny.
We have a
Second.
motion to deny and a second by Mr. D. Simone. The motion was made by Mr. Scholes. Any discussion? Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's actually my tattoo artist. So if you want to see his handwriting, it's right here.
Really?
Yes,
Do you recognize that signature?
I do. It's all over my body.
Okay.
So are you rescinding your,
Walks around
I'll
with
rescind the
proof, right?
second.
you rescind the second, we rescinding the motion,
He's on-
okay?
He's on the road. so.
With the testimony provided?
Yes.
Yes, we have a motion to approve the signature by Mr. Scholes and seconded by Mr. D. Simone.
Yes.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous approval. Yes, next.
Form 108, line 4, Joel Osborne.
Looks like he printed there. I'll move to accept. The printing looks the same to me.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We have a motion by Mr. D. Simone, seconded by Mr. Scholes to accept. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to accept the signature. Next, please.
Same form, line 7, Jason Smith.
Do you have a motion?
Yeah. I would move to approve. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Ms. Bettencourt to approve this signature. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous approval of the signature. Next.
Form 114, line 5, Cheryl Connolly.
Cheryl Connolly.
14. I think it looks like the one above it.
I do
I
as well.
do too.
It looks like the same.
Motion to deny.
Mr. West has made a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Form 119, line 10, Jason Spower.
It's the board's pleasure.
Move to deny.
Moved by Mr. Scholes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to deny that signature. Next.
We have quite a few on this form, so I will continue on to line 17, Norma Johanna Pitchett.
Nola, huh?
It's the board's pleasure.
Motion to deny.
Mr. West moves to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Scholes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous deny. Next.
Line 18, Jeremy Farias.
Oh, boy.
You have a motion?
I can't see any similarities. I'll move to deny.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Johnson to deny, seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Line 20. Brian Martins.
A whole different signature.
But line 2021 seems to be
Yep.
signed by the same person.
2021 and 22.
Yep. All three of them are the
Exactly the
same.
same.
Move to deny.
Motion by Mr. Scholes. We have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. D. Simone to deny. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Denied unanimously. Next.
Very next line, Jacob Martins.
Same thing. Move to deny.
Move to
I'll-
deny. Do we
I'll
have a
second it
second?
again.
Second by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous denial. Next.
Same motion.
Moved by Mr. Scholes, seconded
Second.
by Mr. D. Simone to deny. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Just to be clear, was that on Form 119, line 22?
It was 22, yes.
Okay. Form 119, line 27,
Michael Boffey.
Michael Buffy.
I'm going to move to deny that as well.
Second.
Moved by Mr. D. Simone to deny, seconded by Mr. West. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I have a problem with this whole sheet now.
You
Miss-
can see the, it looks like they signed up. You can see the BOFF, like the last part. At the top, it's like slanted.
Okay, so
It's like the bottom, the one on top and the one on the bottom are bleeding into it, that's why.
I'm not sure. So it's opposed by Mrs. Johnson and Ms. Bittenker. So we have passage of the denial of that signature, not unanimously. But we have,
5-2.
it's approved. Go ahead. Is that clear? I'm sorry. Did you get that? Yes. By majority. Go ahead, please.
Line 30, Robert Kennedy.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Scholes, seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous to deny the signature. Next.
Line 31, Carol Liao.
I'll second that.
Moved by Mr. Scholes, seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, signatures approved.
Very next line, line 32, Nancy Vial.
Motion to accept.
We have a motion to accept the signature. Do we
Even
have,
though it looks like the same as the one above it, but the problem is, which one are we gonna accept, which one are we gonna?
well, you're
deny?
only looking at one, right?
Right.
I'll second the motion to accept.
Mr. D. Simone made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. West is opposed. Motion carries to allow the signature. Next,
Form,
please.
Form 122, line 1, Raul Diaz.
22. Madam Chair, can I ask Miguel a question?
Of course.
Miguel, are those two separate signatures on that?
They are,
Two
yes.
different ones? Okay.
The one on the left appears to be digital, the one on the right appears to be from the form, paper
But I
form.
mean, they're from two different
Two different
areas, two different
documents,
entities.
yes.
Okay.
Board's pleasure. Moved by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Ms. Bettenker to approve the signature. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval of the signature. Next.
Form 124, line 4, Jerome Lewis.
Oh, so we got the wrong form.
Is it?
Excuse me, I
four
think
or
that
two?
is
It's line 2.
line
I
2,
think.
excuse me.
There you go. 124. 124, I did the same thing. I was doing the same thing.
The print looks.
Print looks the same.
Do we have a motion?
Marcella moved to approve.
I'll second.
Approval moved by Ms. Betker, seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimously approve the signature. Next.
Form 125, line 4, Jennifer Rowe.
Do you have a motion?
Motion to deny.
I'll second that.
Mr. West moves denial, seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. Any discussion? To deny. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to deny. Next.
Form 126, line 9, Jomar Montanez.
The print,
The key is the same.
and the print is the same as the signature there.
I'll second that.
Moved by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous to approve the signature. Next.
Form 127, line 1, Richard C. Branch Jr.
Kind of looks like the same person signed for both, so I moved to deny.
Second.
Mrs. Johnson moves to deny. Who seconded, please?
Yeah.
Mr. D. Simone, did you second?
Mhm.
Seconded by Mr. D. Simone. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by
Madam
saying
Chair.
aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
It's okay, I just have a question. If someone's disabled, they can't sign for themselves and someone else signs, what's the process of that? I'm just curious. If someone has 2 broken fingers or a broken arm, what is the process? Because I approached plenty of people, you know, I deal with the disabled community, so I went to nursing homes and other areas that sign. So what is the process if someone disabled whose signatures change over years and because they're in a nursing home, they can't get out and update their signature? What is the process of that? I'm just curious.
Well, they're always able to sign with an X, right, Bob?
Yeah, but try telling the elderly person just sign with an X and then they're like, no, and it, yeah, you know? And I'm not gonna disrespect my elder, you know, that I'm taking care of and tell them, just put an X. So I'm just curious on what the process is as far as that goes.
Are you saying if they're just in a nursing home or out in?
No, just in general, because,
Just
you
in
know,
general.
there's people with casts on their arms that they have to write with the other hand. I'm just curious.
Just do the best you can. That's all. I mean,
Yeah, but if it doesn't match with the left hand, then it's denied. So if they did the best they can, it still gets denied.
Well,
I'm not arguing, I'm just asking so I know for further,
I mean, it's a good, that's a good question.
you know, I'm just wondering if, like right now, I have 5 fingers on my right hand, I can sign my name perfect.
Well,
They
the
get
problem that we have is,
Mhm.
and again, I'll defer to legal counsel, but this board is a fact finder.
Oh, no, I
on these
understand,
things.
I'm
So
not being
we
disrespectful.
we can't provide you with a legal standard or even a standard of fact. It's just basically, if we were to do that, I think we'd be in conflict with what our duties are, but I mean, I'd leave that.
You
legal
have to
counsel.
ascertain.
I'm
you
not
have-
comfortable telling you what
Oh,
we'll approve and what we won't approve. But
Okay.
I would defer to Ray on that.
Yeah, you have to ascertain whether the signature matches the signature specimen on file, period.
Oh, no, I understand, I was just asking for future reference.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was there a motion on this one?
I thought we moved to deny. Did we move to deny, Patty?
Oh, but chairwoman is out, so.
Yeah, that's right. I can
Pause.
move by Mr. D. Simone.
No, I think we already did, right, Patty? We
Yeah.
already denied that,
All right.
I think.
Sorry for the confusion.
Yeah, there was a motion and a second to deny that signature, correct?
I thought we even voted, didn't we vote?
We were getting to the vote and then the gentleman raised his hand. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous to disallow the signature.
Yes.
Next. we go.
Form 128, line 2, Beth Caparelli.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Ms. Bettenker to accept the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to approve. Next.
Form 129, line 10, Nicole Labonte.
Cole Labonte.
I mean, I can't see it. Mine's in all in red, and so I can't even tell what it is, so. Was this denied for address? Miguel?
Her address was denied due to address, yes. However, the signature is here because she does reside in the town of Johnston.
That's actually the daughter of the person who received the signatures. It says Paula Labonte on the paper, and that's her daughter, Nicole Labonte.
You recognize that signature?
I do,
Some similar.
yeah,
So with the testimony, do we have a motion to approve?
thank you.
Moved by Mr. Scholes. Do we have a second? Seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval. Next.
Form 129, line 11, Jamie Robinson.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Mrs. Johnson to approve the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Unanimous approval. Next.
Same form, line 15, John Borderi.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bettenker, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to approve the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Unanimous approval of the signature. Next.
Same form, line 27, David Haro.
It's the board's pleasure.
Based on the D, move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Pierce, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to approve the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Unanimous approval. Next.
Same form, line 30, Raymond Johnson.
Motion to deny.
Moved by Mr. West to deny. Do we have a second? Seconded by Mr. Scholes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous to not allow the signature. Next.
Form 130, line 17, Naren Chith.
Those are three separate, Miguel? Those are three separate signatures?
Yes.
Yeah, the printed version looks like the signature. I agree. Is that a motion, Mrs. Johnson?
Yes, it is. I move to accept.
Move to accept. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bettenker. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval. Next.
Form 149, line 5, Cheryl Snowden, Bodega.
Mm.
49.
So there's no,
Signatures are similar, but one's
That's not-
Snowden and
that's not
one's
the way-
just, this, the paper is just Rhode.
This is, yeah, this is a different name though, right?
It looks the same in Cheryl.
That can't be the right signature because it's not the person's name.
Well, it's.
Well, the Cheryl's the same.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
May have changed.
she changed her name and didn't change it. Yeah.
Did she get married or is this,
Cheryl looks the same.
She dropped the name.
I'll move to accept simply because the first name looks the same.
Second.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Unanimous approval. Next.
Form 150, line 8, Brandon Rodriguez.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. DeSimone. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval. Next.
Form 158, line 18, Christopher Slocum.
The print looks the same. I move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bettenker, seconded by Mrs. Johnson to approve the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval. Next.
Form 160, line 7, Thomas Austin. 160, line 7.
160, line 7.
I move to approve.
Moved by Mrs. Bettenker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Johnson to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approval unanimously. Next.
Form 164, line 11, Joan Eichenfeld.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Mr. Scholes to approve the signature. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval. Next.
Form 169, line 20, Joy Petties.
Thanks.
The middle one matches what I think should have been the print, but was signed, so I move to approve.
Motion to deny.
Mrs. Johnson made a motion to approve
Oh,
before your motion to deny. Do we have a second to Mrs. Johnson's motion?
I would second her motion based on the reasons she gave.
So it was seconded by Mr. DeSimone to approve the signatures. Any discussion? Hearing none, we shall vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
opposed.
Mr. West and Mr. Schultz are opposed. Motion carries to approve the signature. Next.
Same form, line 25, Jeffrey Kelligan.
I mean, the one on the right, the end of it
The last one
matches,
looks
but
like it.
that's what it is
I hate
in
to
its
say it's a
entirety
match.
on the signature, so-
Yeah,
That's true. actually,
you're
that
right.
is- that
Motion
is
to
right.
approve.
Yeah.
Motion
Yeah.
to approve done from Mr. West. And I
Mr.
would
West
second.
made a motion to approve,
And I would second.
and Mr. DeSimone seconded the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous approval of the signature. Next.
Same form, however, on page 2, line 11, Dana Cook.
Dana Cook. Looks good to me.
So next page,
Got it.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Ms. Mettenker. Do we have a second? Seconded by Mr. Scholes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I vote aye, I'm sorry.
Unanimous approval.
If the applicant is willing to withdraw at this point, he would have one over the required number of signatures because he
Withdraw
has
his
40.
objection or his challenge, is that what you're saying?
So
I
if-
think you need to explain to him what,
You have 40, sir, right now, so you would qualify. So you
Okay.
could choose to stop right now.
That's all that matters to me is that I qualify.
Double to the end.
Two more signatures to go. Four.
6 more to review.
For the six.
well, we have 6 more, so we
All
may
right,
as
well,
well
let's
finish
do
up.
that. Okay, we'll do them. We'll give you an official
We'll
count that
give you a
way.
little insurance.
We'll give you an
Thank you.
official
I
count that way,
appreciate
but you do qualify, so.
Thank you so much. I
congrats at this
appreciate it.
point.
All right, next.
Form 170, line 1, Mark Gonzalez.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval of the signature. Next.
Form 170, line 26, Michelle Grimes.
Michelle Grimes.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Pierce, made by Ms. Bettenker. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Unanimous. Next.
Same form, line, however, on the next page, page 2, line 6, J.A. Jordan.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Mr. DeSimone, seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous approval. Next.
Form 171 on page 2, line 12, Francis Robson.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Signatures approved unanimously. Next.
Form 171, page 2, line 15, Jason Duar.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second? seconded by Ms. Bettenker. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous approval.
And Form 171, page 2, line 26, Kimberly Mallet,
Kimberly.
the last signature on
Mallet.
page
The
2.
last one?
Got it.
That is the last signature.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Pierce. Do we have a second? Seconded by Mrs. Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous approval of that last signature. So we need a motion.
I would move to qualify, I would move to qualify the candidate as an independent candidate for governor, based upon the signatures and our findings.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. All, seconded by Mr. West. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed, ayes have it unanimously. Good luck.
Thank you so much, and don't forget to vote for me.
Good luck.
I appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you again, Miguel, for your good work. You and your team, appreciate it. So we, with no other business today, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
You made that motion, didn't you, Mr. Scholes? Mr. Scholes made the motion, the vice chairman made the second. All in favor? We are adjourned at 4:09. I actually ran out of ink.
Thank you.